So there was one particular week where I had clocked 100 hours in that week. And on the Monday after that, I got a call from 3 partners saying, is everything okay? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, this is very normal for us in India.
Articleship is a must. Everyone should do articleship. You should not be like, I'm born for greater things or this is what I'm made for. मेरी शक्तियों का गलत इस्तेमाल हो रहा है.
This Big Four as a platform has given us this insight into the larger world.
Now coming to the fun part, like it's really fun if you make jokes on your bosses.
Networking in a college event is completely different than networking at a professional setup.
What do you think the impact of technology will come in the departments you are in? What's your take around it?
So I feel like instead of looking at it as कि अरे replace कर देगा, you should look at it as अरे कैसे benefit करेगा हमको.
What did you do with your first pay when you got it? Welcome to the Curious Club. So today we have a panel of guests from Big Four. And when I say Big Four accounting firms, it means Deloitte, KPMG, EY and PwC. So today we are hosting Shruti, Harsheet and Ram on the show, which comes from different backgrounds in Big Four departments as well. First, we'll start with their introduction and then we'll jump on to the questions we have. So let's start with Shruti. Tell us about your journey, early journey, your college, education, etc. And then we'll jump.
So hi, I'm Shruti. I started my CA journey as an article at BMR Advisor.
Let's go behind. Okay. Early journey, your school, education, etc.
Okay. So schooling I did from Singhania, post which my college was at HR College. BCom graduate along with CA, articleship at BMR. Post which BMR Advisors got merged with KPMG and that's how I ended up in KPMG. Currently, I'm at Deloitte, designated as a manager in the M&A tax practice, deal advisory.
Got it. And you're born and brought up in Mumbai?
Yes, that's
Where? Exactly.
Cut.
Right. Let's move to Harsheet then.
Okay, I'm born and brought up in Mumbai itself. I did my schooling in Mumbai, of course, and I'm actually from Mumbai.
But why are you saying that actually from Mumbai?
Within the Mumbai district. That's it. Then I joined KPMG for my articleship in the deal advisory team. Post-qualification, I continued with KPMG. Then I took a professional decision and moved to EY. And now in the same domain.
Got it. Let's go with Ram.
Yeah, so I grew up in Mumbai as well and I did my schooling here. I went to Polar College for my 11th, 12th and my BCom. And again, I started my articleship with KPMG in the Audit Department. I completed my articleship and then I got an opportunity to work in KPMG UK. So I worked there for 6 months and then I had another opportunity to work with KPMG Canada. So I worked with them for 2 years, came back to KPMG India again. I worked for a year as a manager and then I quit and I started my own practice, which I think has been like 1 year, 3 months into it right now.
Got it. Yeah, we'll come to that also. Let's understand first in deep what you have done or what you're currently doing in Big Four, because a lot of people who aspire to come into Big Four are already working in articleship or some domain. They want to know what at your level you are working at and what departments options they have. So let's start, Ram, with you. In audit, where were you working from articleship, then being a senior over there?
So I joined into audit in KPMG and I continued doing audit until last year. But I feel like, there's a lot of stigma around audit. A lot of people think it's like repetitive or monotonous. Or, even when I completed my articleship and I was choosing what I want to do next. And I told people, I might continue in audit. There were a few comments saying, oh, to audit karna hai, audit boring nahi hai. And I feel like a lot of that comes from how audit is done. I think audit is very subjective. So how it's done in, the Big Four, it differs a lot from how it is done in a mid-sized firm or how it would be done in a small-sized firm. So I think, and even country-wise, like I worked in 3 different countries and I found that the way of doing audit and the documentation and all of that is very different when you consider each country. They have their own specific set of documentation standards and how you do things. So I forgot what the question was.
What exactly you do in audit department then?
So basically, what I guess people understand what basic audit means.
Correct.
Like you give an opinion on the financial statements of the company, whether they're true and fair or not, and like practically day to day, it involves a lot of knowledge of auditing standards and a lot of knowledge of accounting standards and what kind of GAAP you're using. There's IFRS, there's US GAAP, there's NDS. So you're using all of that to check whether the company has accounted it correctly or not, and then you're issuing an opinion on that.
Got it. Understood. Okay, let's move to Shruti. You have worked in transaction advisory, deal M&A department. Tell us what is that, because it looks way sexier from outside, but tell us how does it look inside?
So it's definitely a dynamic field, a niche field though. It actually revolves around the entire gamut of transaction space, which includes like private equity giants and corporate conglomerates. So our expertise where we come in is we provide M&A tax related advisory. This particularly means advising clients on taxation aspects relating to the deals, which probably include like a private equity investing in a firm or a corporate choosing to merge with another group, and what are the nuances around those. So from a Indian tax and regulatory perspective, which is the most efficient and compliant structure, is where we come in. Broadly, the scope is pretty huge because we cater to like the entire transaction cycle, which starts from say the diligence phase, wherein the client identifies the target and we do the tax check, the tax health check of the company. Then we move on to the transaction documentation phase, wherein the entire like two lawyers from both sides sit together and stitch up a document, and we provide our inputs from a tax perspective, which works for both entities, like both sides. And then we go to the post-closing activities like, compliances which need to be done and the filings which need to be done. So it's like a huge the scope is very wide because we have to cover the entire transaction cycle. We also provide assistance on like the practical implementation of the mergers, which happen, we have to file a application with the NCLT and get it approved. So the scope is pretty huge. It's a very dynamic field. It's actually very interesting. So no day is same. Every day is new. And it's interesting. Like by far I've been liking it here.
Got it. And usually these deals take a longer period of time to get done?
Yes, typically. Because if you see the entire cycle, it does take a lot of time. Because you have to make a pre-bid. Then if your client is selected for the bid, is when you move to the next stage.
Correct.
You then sign the term sheets and then you go into the detailed diligence phase. Then you stitch up the
So
SP.
in your case, diligence would be tax-related diligence.
Tax-related, yes.
So a lot of times when I was in private equity, we used to invest in companies. There used to be a financial diligence, which is of financials or operating part. Then there's a tax diligence. Then there's a legal diligence.
Yes.
All these.
There are many more commercial due diligences, HR related diligences.
But you cover mainly the
We
tax
cover
part.
The tax part.
Okay, got it. Let's move to Harsheet. Harsheet, what's your work like?
So I'm in the same profile. So I don't know what I can add more, but I will just explain with the help of an example.
Yeah.
Say company A wants to acquire company B. Company B has been identified. That's where we step in. We do the diligence first. In the diligence, we do a health checkup on the historical data. Basis the historical data, from a taxation point of view, we identify the tax risks which can come up post acquisition. This is what we highlight to our client.
Correct.
Second comes once the decision is made that we are going ahead with the deal post the diligence report. Then we do the transaction documentation, which can be share purchase agreement or subscription agreement, shareholder agreement, various other agreements. And this is we give our inputs in those agreements from a tax standpoint. We try to protect our client legally in the form of documents. We try to record the commercial understanding over there. Next we go to is actually implementing the transaction. So it's not always as simple as just buying the shares, etc., there are few pre-acquisition steps which needs to be completed. There is a big laundry list. We help in completing that laundry list. That is the implementation part. Fourth comes, which can be pre-implemented which can form part of implementation stage or post-acquisition, which is a structuring. As a structuring, we help the potential buyer to structure the business in a way which could optimize tax, which could simplify the structure, and which could provide good exit opportunities, because if a person is buying a company with the objective of selling it
later
at a return in future. So if this potential new structure provides better exit opportunities, then we help them restructure the business.
Got it. Also, in structuring, when we discuss, there are a lot of other things also, like whether you want to acquire shares of the company, whether you want to merge the company, slump sale. So there are a lot of other things, and you accordingly suggest depending upon tax implications. Got it. Also, when you
Not
said,
only in tax implication, the timelines also, the regulatory approvals also,
Business
there
objective.
are many business objectives, how you want to exit it. Like if you cannot blindly suggest a merger when you want to sell this business as a separate unit.
correct. Got it. Understood. Also, you said there are a lot of taxation risk which can come. What are usually the risk which you usually highlight to any company which is acquiring any other company?
So the pending litigation, we review the data.
Correct.
And we see potential outcome basis our research. This could be the potential outcome in the court of law. Second is for the past 2-3 years where the assessment is yet to happen, we see their risky tax positions which they have taken, which if picked up could be a risk in future.
Got it. Understood. So next question comes in the department you are working in, and a lot of people would want to enter into, let's say, audit or transaction advisory. How do you get into such roles? I know a lot of you would have already been in articleship and then joined, but if someone new wants to enter into after clearing CA, how should they apply to get into these kind of positions? Shruti, you can start.
So, at a fresher and entry level, what is most important is the skill set, like the attitude you bring to the table, the ability to learn, and the willingness to be present. That's all is what is required at an entry level. So, you probably
Entry means CA fresher.
fresher, yes. So, if you probably demonstrate the skills that you are you are ready to adapt to this new cycle or new learnings, you're open to opportunities, is when it's you become a helpful resource. So you might have a background in some other field, but as a recruiter, it'll be helpful if you demonstrate skill sets rather than focusing on technical nuances, which probably will come on the job as a on the job training.
Okay. So you're saying you don't have to be from this department to apply into
It's
this
not
department.
mandatory. It's good if you have it. It's fantastic if you know it. But it's always like at a entry level, it's more important to be in the right frame of mind and the right mindset and attitude.
And what would be the interview process be like? Let's say someone wants to apply in Deloitte's your department.
Yeah.
What do you think will be the
So
interview process?
the interview process will be broadly standard. Like first we'll have an HR interview wherein they'll check your profile. Post which we'll have a technical round of interview wherein we'll analyze the candidate, the candidature of the person in terms of what is their technical skill set. As I said, for a fresher, it's not the most primal and important aspect to be evaluated. What we see is the attitude, the willingness to work. As I said, how enthusiastic is the candidate.
Got it.
And then there'll be a partner round, which will be the final round.
Got it. So three rounds.
Either
Usually
way,
3
yes,
rounds.
Usually.
Got it. Ram, for audit, how would you say?
So I think a lot of it would be similar to what Shruti just mentioned. All of those qualities are important in any fresher if you want to enter Big Four. But if I'm talking specifically about audit, I think one important factor that people look at, and I also took a few interviews after I got to a managerial position, and what I was looking at is the ability to apply your knowledge. Like a lot of audit depends on your knowledge of accounting standards or auditing standards or how you have to do things. But of course, beyond a point, you can't remember everything.
Yeah.
And I think the focus should not be on like just knowing, but applying. So, you can today look up any standard and read it up on the internet. You don't need to remember it, but you need to know how to apply that in practice, because our CA course, it focuses a lot on theoretical knowledge, but the practical knowledge will come when you do your articleship and, you understand how these standards or the law is to be applied in practical situations. So I think that is one thing that is very important in audit. And of course, you might have learned it to a certain extent in your articleship, but the expectation is not that you know everything. Again, as Shruti mentioned, you should have the drive to learn, and you should always never stop learning. You should always be eager to learn, and you should never think that I know everything. You should be open to learning new things and always come with a clean slate.
Got it. Understood. Also, a lot of time people have questions. I think anyone can answer on that. That only Big Four people usually get into post-qualification. Also, it's easy for them to get into different jobs. Do you think, is it true, or anybody like mid-size, small size can also enter into?
So for audit specifically, if I can say, most from what I saw in the KPMG where I was working, there were a lot of new entrants after post-qualification. They were coming from mid-sized firms. So it's not exclusive to, Big Four articles. And there are a lot of people from mid-sized firms coming in as well. And I don't think it is very difficult for them to get in. It's not that difficult. But from what I've seen is, as I mentioned earlier too, the way you do audit in a mid-sized firm is very different from what you do in a Big Four. Because in a mid-sized firm, you basically do an audit, but there's not too much stress on documentation. Versus when you look at the Big Four, we stress a lot on documentation, because the belief is that if you've not documented something, that means you've not done it, because we have nothing to show as to what you've done, what your conclusion is, how you did it. So, and I feel like on a technical knowledge perspective, I think anybody coming from an mid-sized firm is just as good as anybody who's done articleship in a Big Four, maybe even better in certain cases. But I think the bigger change comes in terms of like how to document and, how to show what you've done versus just doing and, saying I've done.
Got it. So Harsheet, how does it work for your role? Let's say someone wants to apply in EY.
So it's pretty similar streamlined. Just the only difference is it gives some statistic. Like if you're from Big Four, of course a +1. Like it's not a must to have thing to have, but it's +1. But if I give a statistic out of a team of 15 people here, only I am the one who's from Big Four.
Got it.
Articleship period in Big Four and past experience in 10-year profile. Anyone else in my team was from audit profile or accounting profile or some corp tax profile. So it's not difficult to get. What I generally test when I do interviews is I test what work they have done during the articleship period and how in-depth knowledge they have of the work they have done in articleship period. This is how I test how committed they are to their work. Even when nothing was expected out of them, they did an in-depth analysis. They ingrained it in themselves, and they still remember what they had done after the exhaustive curriculum exam they have just appeared for, and still they remember it. So this is a very good example how committed they are in the work. So this is what we tested doing.
So usually in technical rounds, you're saying you try to test what you have already done and basic around it, and what is the drive?
It's a fresher role, like what I can expect out of
test a lot of things also. Got it. Understood. So next question is, so you started from your articleship journey and then you moved up to the position. How does roles and responsibilities change when you move up the positions? Ram, let's start with you.
So when you join as an article, there's literally no expectation from you because you've just come as a 19-year-old kid. Like if you've cleared your IPCC in your first attempt or second attempt, you're like a 19-20-year-old kid. And you know nothing of the corporate world. You don't know how things work. Like you've just come up from college where you're used to like chilling around and bunking lectures. So it's a very, I think there's very little expectation from you. The only expectation that I feel the seniors have is that, you should be focused and you should try to learn as far as possible as to what they're doing, observe them, how they're doing, ask the right questions, and that drive to say that, okay, I'll learn and I'll do this someday. So I think as an article, the important thing is to just learn, try to see what they're doing and try to grab every opportunity that you get. And maybe, try out new things. Like especially in audit, you get a certain amount of areas or captions to do, saying, okay, why don't you look at cash bank or fixed assets? And maybe the next time you go, you can say, okay, I want to look at something else. I want to look at liabilities or something, some different kind of caption. So you learn new things because every different caption on the balance sheet or the profit and loss statement will have certain audit procedures attached to it. So I think with articleship, the important thing is learning. As you move up, I think on an executive and senior level, which I mean can go by different names in different big fours, but it's like the first and second level after your post-qualification. I think more focuses on execution and taking up a bit of responsibility for the assignment. As an article, you're just doing your thing and you're like, okay, I'm done. But on these levels, the expectation is that you will also look at what your juniors are doing, guide them, and also, you know, kind of take responsibility for the whole engagement, saying, okay, you know, I am looking at it, I am managing things. And I think the same continues on an assistant managerial level, which is like just below the managerial level. But there, I think the execution kind of goes down, the amount of execution you do versus the kind of in charging of the management and seeing how things go. Like it's preparing you for a managerial role. So I think that goes up. And at that stage, the expectation is that you will take responsibility for the assignment and, you know, give your reviews to your partners or your managers and take their comments and make sure that, you know, you're keeping everything in order. And the same goes for managerial role. But there, I think a lot of other factors come in, like, you know, your budget, your resourcing as to, you know, who you're taking on your job, and whether you're meeting your budgets in terms of like how much revenue or how much profitability your engagement is generating. And a lot of other things like training your juniors and people on your team, and, you know, hearing their feedback and passing it on to the partners. So I think a lot of that comes in on a managerial role, like a lot of admin things come onto your plate along with like just managing the client. And I think that continues until you go up to the partner level. And again, we'll not be able to give you a practical view of what it's like to be a partner, but I think there, as you move up the managerial level, a lot of expectation from you in terms of like getting clients on board, like maintaining a relationship with your clients and getting new clients on board. I think that also increases as you move to a senior manager or a director level, and I think that continues onto the partner level.
And what's the time period you think from being, let's say, CA fresher getting into a senior level over there to the partner level?
To the partner level, again, you know,
years wise or whatever.
I think a lot depends on your performance, because if you put in a better performance, if you get a good performance rating, you can get accelerated promotions, versus like if you get a rating which is like an average rating, then that doesn't mean you're bad, but that doesn't mean you're standing out as well. So I feel you can expect at least like a 10-year phase minimum. Like if you perform really well, still I think in the current time you will take about 10 to 12 years at least to get to a partner stage from a fresher level.
Got it. Understood. Similar question to you. Roles and responsibilities evolve as you move up the position.
So for articleship, it's exactly the same what Ram mentioned. Once you qualify, some expectation level starts to build. Basically, it's execution. If you are in tax profile, what is expected out of you is good research, because our profile depends a lot on updates, new rulings, new amendments, new regulations, new circulars which come out approximately daily or every weekly. So being updated is what is expected out of you, so that you can give good download, a good summary to your seniors. Once you move up, say a manager or senior manager level, then you start becoming a point of contact to your clients. The clients start calling you directly. So client management comes in your key responsibilities, along with getting the work done. Your responsibilities, it's a typical management role wherein you bridge the gap between a partner and their juniors.
Correct.
When you scale up, you become a director or a partner, you basically are face of the firm. You go out, you bring business for your firm, and any escalations are handled by your directors and your partners.
Got it.
And they look more for the business side than on the technical aspect of the job.
Okay.
So they focus more on getting the business, what fees to be quoted to the client, what is to be charged, what do we advise to this client, client specific things. They have been working on a client since like a decade or something. So they would know client inside out. So they would have some practical insights which a manager or junior may not have. So this is where we go to partners for technical input somewhere, but their main work depends on business.
Getting business. And manager is to execute it.
Yeah, it's a mid-level management role. So they execute as well as make sure that the juniors are working well, and you give right inputs to your partner so that he can accordingly act on it.
Got it. Understood. And for your domain, what do you think from fresher to a partner level? What's the journey like in the year?
So it's very individual specific and firm specific again. Because initially it's based on your performance. Then at a later point in your director or partner level, depends on the business you get. So the criteria change. So if you are a good performer, but you may not be good at getting business.
Correct.
So you need to adapt. It might take some time. Reasonably, I will say 13 to 15 years is a reasonable period to expect. So that the transitions in your role, you can adapt to it. You can master it, or you say, get used to it.
Got it. Understood. Shruti, is it similar or something different?
Pretty much.
Okay. Won't take that again. Ram, I wanted to ask you one thing. Like, a lot of people have also asked me question when I asked them what question should I ask. Everyone asked that how did you get into roles in UK, Canada, etc. And how does it work for you? Like, is it Big Four specific that you get such opportunities? Because of course they have offices around. Tell us about that.
So if I talk about my specific case, most of the Big Fours, they have this program called secondments. So what you do is basically once you qualify, there are opportunities to work for a certain period of time in different offices, in India as well, or maybe abroad as well. And they come and they accept your resume. So you can apply from within KPMG. So when I was in KPMG Mumbai, I applied to work at KPMG UK. So then they take up your resume, they do your interviews, and if they feel like you would be a good fit there, they take you in and you work for that specified period of time. But from what I've seen from experience and also a lot of my friends and ex-colleagues who have gone there, I feel like if you worked a certain amount of time in that office and let's say you've performed well and they're happy with what you're doing, there's a good chance that they might give you a job offer. And you might come back to India and you might serve your notice or complete your assignment here, but then there's a good opportunity to go back there. And even if like this was my case, like when I'm talking about secondments, but you can also apply directly. Like a lot of my friends have applied directly to other offices, so you can go to their websites. Like you can maybe go to a KPMG UK website or a KPMG Netherlands website.
Okay.
So you can go to the careers tab and then they will have a list of openings in different departments at different roles. And you can upload your CV there and you can, give your forwarding letter saying, okay, these are my qualifications. And then they will look at your profile if they are interested, and looking at your resume, they'll set up an interview and you can get in. But I think what is very important for you to move abroad in a different country is they should be able to recognize the experience that you have in India, which I think would be very important in terms of whether you worked in a Big Four in India or not. Because let's say KPMG UK, they don't know a small size firm or a mid-size firm in India. They'll be like, we don't know this firm. But if you mention, okay, I worked in KPMG India or maybe Deloitte or like EY or PwC, then they know these firms. They know that, there's a certain amount of standard that is coming with this person. He knows a few things, like he knows how things work. He knows the corporate culture. So in terms of that helps a lot. That adds a lot to your resume. So I feel like if you work for recognized names, and I'm not just talking about the Big Four, you work in a recognized company or an MNC, which they would know in different countries. I think that helps a lot in terms of them shortlisting you on their vacancies.
Got it. Okay, so one question I didn't ask about everyone has is salaries. Salary expectations as you join as a fresher, and how does it grow, like in terms of, Ram, let's start with you for India also and as well as outside India. You can give the range, it's not...
So I think from what I understand, most freshers in India, if you get into a Big Four, especially audit, I think the starting salary range was about 8 to 10 lakhs per annum. From what I hear, it had been a long time since I joined, so I don't know, but I think that was the range. And I think at an assistant manager level, which is like just below manager, it was about 13 to 14 lakhs. So that might have moved like in the last 1.5 years, because I've not been at KPMG since the last 1.5 years. But I think that was the range, and at a managerial level, it goes to about 22 to 25 lakhs. And then at director level and partner level, it goes up. This is the India salary range, and I think it would be very similar in other Big Fours in audit. I don't know about taxation or deal advisory, but this would be the range. And abroad, a lot of people are just attracted by the numbers. Like if you convert in Indian rupees, they're like, wow, he's earning like 80 lakhs per annum or like 90 lakhs per annum. That sounds very attractive, and but you don't use incentive sitting here. But you also have to realize that you're also spending in a foreign currency. You're not spending in Indian rupees, and things are much costlier there. But I would still say the amount of money I was saving after all of my expenses, after taxation and everything, was much higher in Canada than it used to be in India. Even though in India, sure, I have my own place, I don't have to pay rent and all that. I had to pay rent and pay for food, but I was still saving more. So the pay is, I would say, better abroad than it is in India. But it also comes with its own set of challenges. Like you're also spending and managing everything on your own. So I feel like I think in the UK, from what I understand, the salary range for an assistant manager, because that's the level that most of my friends went, that was about £48,000 per year. So a lot of people convert that, then they're like, wow, that's like 48 lakhs. But it's not that simple. It's not like a direct conversion into Indian rupees. And I think in Canada, at a managerial level, you would have your salaries in the range of like $90,000 to $100,000 Canadian dollars.
What's in INR that?
I think that would be around 55 to 60 lakhs per annum.
But what did you think? Cost of living was higher in Canada or
Definitely.
UK?
Yeah, UK. I feel the cost of living is the highest in the UK. Then Canada, and then India is the lowest. And I think you can see that in terms of like pay scales as well. There are higher pay scales because even the cost of living is higher there. But I feel like apart from the pay and apart from the seeing this as a lucrative thing, saying, I'll live abroad, I think it's a great learning experience personally and professionally as well, because I feel like I turned into a whole different person. The person who went to the UK in 2018 and who came back from Canada in 2021, two very different people, because you meet different people from different countries, you travel, you understand what their lifestyle is like. And I feel like when you work in different countries, it gives you the best bits of each country, saying, okay, they're doing this very differently. It's a good practice. So maybe, if I want to come back to India or if I move somewhere else, I can take all of these learnings. And I feel like there's also a bit of a professional attitude. India mein hum karte hai, but to a certain extent, we kind of like slip up saying, chalta hai India. But there you have to be on your toes. And I think that comes from within, saying, okay, I'm representing my country and I'm here. So, I need to be at the best. I need to be on the top of my game.
Got it. Understood. So, salary part, Shruti and Harsheet, I think similar, whatever it is, but what's the range like?
Broadly same. Each designation has its own price band, very similar to audit. So, very little scope for negotiation, if just thinking from that point of view. But they are very competitive salaries. This is what I would say. That's why so many people want to come to Big Fours post-qualifying from mid-sized firms or other firms. Competitive salaries, and there's a range, price band.
What's the range?
So each designation has different ranges. I think currently it's big fresher approximately 10 lakhs somewhere. And it's like the median salaries. 10 to 12, then 12 to 14 next.
Yes.
Salary, then 14 to 16, then 20 to 22.
25.
20 to 25 is for manager.
Managerial level.
And then a lot of it from director, Martin level, it also shifts to the client you get. Like there's a percentage of
your variable component changes.
Got it. Understood. Okay. Also, lot of people have this question while you're working in this field, because in Big Four there's like departmentalization. You are in this department, you will work in this department for how long, and it becomes difficult to shift. What do you think you have options right now if you wanted to shift to any other department? How does it work? At what level, if people want to shift department, they should shift?
It's pretty fluid in that sense, because you do have opportunities to, like Ram rightly said, to move across organizations, across countries, and also across departments. But again, now that would depend upon the nuances of each role, like which role you belong to in the past and which role you're looking for in future, and at what level are you looking at. Basically, for a fresher, it's very open.
Correct.
You can, if you are in, say, audit, you are more than happy to move, and you're more than welcome to move to any other department across the firm. Similarly, as you go a little like below the managerial, it is still open, because you're not like at the managerial role. But once you reach the managerial position and above that, it's not impossible. It's just a little more challenging because you'll have to adapt to the new set of profile that you're working in and deliver the output which is required at like a higher level, like a managerial or director level. So that's a little challenging. But having said that, it's not impossible.
Which domains you think are available for you if you want to shift? Let's say from transaction advisory, what would be, Harsheet, if you can take this?
So there is full fungibility if you move within the main sub-verticals. In Big Four, there are 3 main sub-verticals: audit, tax, and advisory.
Advisory.
So if deal advisory tax is within the tax
Domain.
vertical. So if you are moving within tax, I think it's pretty much easy, very easy. You can move at, I think, any designation. But if you want to move some across your domain, if you want to move to advisory, if you want to move to audit, then the higher you go, the difficult it gets.
Got it. Understood. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Let's go with Ram, because you have shifted from Big Four. A lot of people think that once you have worked in Big Four, what's next? And you have decided to start your own practice. A lot of people do different things. How did your decision came into place? Why did you get into practice? Or it was decided that you want to get a good experience and then you wanted to move? How you decided?
So I kind of had it in the back of my mind while I was doing my CA course before I joined any organization. I think that also stems from the fact that my dad is also a practicing CA. So I've seen that growing up. And when I was choosing the firm for my articleship, at first I was like, Dad, will you take me? And he's like, no. Because like, if you come here, you're not going to work. Like, you'll expect that leniency. So he's like, I'm not taking you, go elsewhere, prove your worth, and then we'll see. And I think KPMG came as a big blessing, I would say, because that just transformed my life. From like being a carefree kid, I was now into a professional setup. I learned a lot. And I think it depends on what your preference is. Like, a lot of people think that in case you want to start your own practice in the future, it's better to work at a mid-sized firm because they feel like it'll give you a whole spectrum of work. Like, you'll work in taxation, GST, income tax, audit. You'll learn all of it and it'll be beneficial, which I agree with to a certain extent. But I feel like the amount of professionalism and the kind of work ethic that you learn at a Big Four, that helps you out in any designation or in any kind of work that you're doing. So in spite of that being restricted to one field, like I did audit until last year. I had zero clue about taxation. Like, I learned whatever I learned in my CA course, which was like very theoretical. And anybody who's like practicing into taxation, these guys will tell you that there's a huge difference between what you learn and what you do. So I feel like working at a Big Four, and I can talk about audit, I don't know about taxation, but that demands a lot from you in terms of like how much time you devote to your work and how much dedication is required, and the timings. I think that can be a bit brutal at certain times, like especially in the busy seasons. And of course, it's a good learning experience, but personally speaking, I would have felt more comfortable having a little bit of freedom to choose my working hours, and a little bit of independence, saying, okay, I want to take certain calls, which you can get in a Big Four if you move up to a managerial or a partner position. That's where you are the one taking the calls. Until then, you're in the hierarchy. You have to basically go by what decisions are made for you. So I felt like I wanted to get into practice and experience all of that, and also the drive to build something on your own. I feel like you would relate to that a lot. You want to see how things take you, and then when you're also you know that you're working for yourself, and that urge to grow, that also helps you push yourself to greater limits. So I feel like that's what motivated me to get into practice. And just a disclaimer, I think a lot of what influenced my decision was also that my dad was already into practice. So I had a few contacts. I knew a few things. If somebody's starting from scratch with like zero contacts, it's very, very difficult in today's time. And I feel like you have a few questions about that later on, so I'll touch upon that later. But
what would you suggest if people are not in, let's say their family is not in practice, and if they want to enter into practice, a lot of people go. What do you suggest? Like, how should they plan? Like, should they have multiple partners so that each one gets some connects or some department expertise? How would you suggest that?
I think both of those things, to be honest. I think one thing is expertise. You need to find something that sets you apart from the others, because only if you have that kind of expertise and you are like the go-to person for XYZ case, that's when clients will come to you.
Correct.
And a lot of businesses, most businesses, they will already have a CA. So if you're looking at a traditional practice and you know, a lot of the work of a CA is built on trust. It's not about other things. It's like the business owners or, you know, was running saying, I trust this guy.
Correct.
You know, he's going to take care of everything. So it is very difficult for them, for you to go and, you know, even if you're discussing about a new opportunity, somebody is not going to let go of a guy they trust and come to you who has no experience, no clients, nothing. So I feel like even when you're doing your articleship, you need to make those connections with your clients or, you know, different CAs. You go to conventions, you go to CPs, you meet other people, you talk to them. And I feel like in a setup, as you mentioned, if you have multiple partners, I feel like each of them might have some connect. And then, you know, you're working as a bigger force. Like all of you are working together. So somebody might know something. And, you know, one person might be good at taxation, another might be really good at audit. So, and clients want to come to a place where, you know, A to Z sab karke dete unko. They don't want to go to different people for different things. So I feel like that would also be very important. And I think networking is the most important, because once you have 2-3 clients under your belt, then you can go and, you know, speak to somebody saying, okay, you know,
we already
client
for that. Yeah.
But if you're starting out with 0 clients, then it's very difficult to get that first client, because somebody has to trust you and be like, okay, you know, I'll give you my business even though I absolutely don't know you and you've done no work before. And working at a Big Four helps a lot, because if you're discussing with somebody and, you know, you mention, okay, I worked for KPMG, I worked for Deloitte, then they know that, you know, you've done some good work, that's a recognized firm, and they feel more comfortable saying, okay, you know, उसने बड़े firm में काम किया है उधर, उसने इतना कुछ किया है, तो he knows what he's doing.
Correct.
So that might be a big helping factor. So I feel like even though a lot of people say mid-size karo, I think working at a Big Four comes with its own set of advantages that cannot be matched by anything else.
Got it. Harsheet, if you want to take this, like, if let's say you want to start something of your own or something like that, will it be difficult or easy? How do you think about it?
Each job, each profile has its own challenges. If you start a business or if you move somewhere else, what I would say, working in a Big Four make you very confident. So if you're making a decision, you will be super confident on the decision. You will go with like this will be successful. I will not face major hurdles over here, because Big Four requires you to be very thorough. It requires you to be very holistic. You are expected to know some of every domain which you deal with. Every law, every domain, some overview you should have. So that you can give a holistic advice or holistic view if you have. And being thorough and the knowledge base which Big Four has. So if you just go through your knowledge base, even if you're for a specific query, if you're going through the knowledge base, you will see 10 specific queries on it.
It's a knowledge base you're talking about, like internal portal.
Internal portal. So basically every Big Four has an internal portal wherein like the past client deliverables, the past advices which a particular team has given to a client is stored on the portal. So when there is repeat work or the same advice needs to be given to some other client, you just look at the portal, what the firm position is, what people are doing within the firm, and what are the considerations which they considered. Is there something new which has come up now? You need to only factor those things. So it helps you realize, like, oh, you were thinking from a particular point of view, but if you go through the portal, there are 10 other things which you also need to look at. So it helps you be very thorough and makes you super confident, super employable. So I think if I'm interviewing everywhere today, if I go to interview, I'll be confident. Even if I don't know things, I'll be confident. I know how to play around with something if required, and how to gain knowledge or expertise over here, what are the resources to be looked at, etc. All this connects and all this material will be available to you.
Got it. Shruti, how has Big Four experience changed you from what you were in, like?
Joining as a college, like a quirky college kid, there was no background actually, because we were all in college and studying, doing nothing otherwise. But once we joined Articleship and like joined like these professional firms, I think it really evolved the entire mindset and the entire persona, because imagine like such a big organization with such huge clients, such big number, the deal sizes, it's insane. And it's not every day that we all come across in our personal lives and deal with such big numbers and such big values. So this Big Four as a platform has given us this insight into the larger world. A world which, in the pond that we live in at an individual level, we would never have had the insight to, experience. So it definitely has given a big platform, transformed you as an individual, made you more professional, like Harsheet rightly said, more confident, more open to possibilities. I think that's one big learning and big blessing.
All right. Okay, let's go to the fun part of our whole life. It's the articleship time. I think as you mentioned,
We were having fun on the loud.
I think the most fun would be articleship when as a college kid, like a 19-year-old, you join. A lot of people, the problem is a lot of people think that articleship is not important. A lot of people tend to skip articleship or do some dummy or something like that. Tell us how it was for you, how you enjoyed and how it has impacted the later life also for you. Because I think for me also when I joined Deloitte and then KPMG, it has completely changed. Completely changed the way you act and the way you talk. And the fascinated part of joining a Big Four was talking to the promoters of the company. Whenever you're dealing with, you're talking to the top person. They don't know what you, whether you're article or something like that, but you are talking to them. So tell us what's been your experience. I think everyone would have similar experience, but tell us, take us one because a lot of people watching would be either planning to do a CA or articleship time deciding how should they think about it.
I feel like, as you mentioned in the beginning, skipping articleship or maybe, what they call dummy articleship, I think that is one of the dumbest things you can do because, some people, or I've heard cases where people feel like, if we skim this, we'll have more time to study and we'll be able to get a better score. But you're not learning the practicality of things. What we study in theory versus what we do in practice are two very different things. And I feel like you learn a lot more from your articleship than you would by studying for your CA course. I mean, of course, that's important to clear your exams and have the theoretical knowledge. But from a personality transitioning perspective, I feel like articleship changes you, as she mentioned. Like, I feel like that is something that sets the CA course apart from like other courses. Because if you look at people who join jobs after graduation or maybe nowadays, just graduation doesn't seem enough. People want to do a master or a post-graduation. By the time you join your first job, even at, a higher level or at a base level, you're almost like 24.
Correct.
23, 24. Versus in the CA course, we join at like 19 or 20.
Yeah.
So, and at that stage, your personality also has not fully developed. You're still a kid, you're seeing things around. So I feel like
just are in the formals.
Yeah. And also I think it's such a happy experience to get that first pay. Like even if it's like a small amount, you feel like, oh, I've earned this. I've worked and earned this at this age. So that is a very exciting factor. And
what did you do with your first pay when you got it?
I got gifts for my family.
Correct.
And I feel like that's what everybody does. Like first pay, you want to like get something for your parents and see the happiness on their face when they feel like, oh, my kid has gone out and earned some money and he's not absolutely useless. So, yeah. So I feel like that is a very fun thing. And as she mentioned, you interact with all of these people who've been in the corporate world for a long time. Like even the partners or the managers at KPMG, how they carry themselves, how they talk, and how they discuss things with the client, the way they present themselves. I think there's a lot to learn from that, and you can model your own demeanor based on that. And also, as Harsheet mentioned, it gives you a ton of confidence if you're going and representing your firm in front of your clients, because then you are the face. They don't know you're an article, they don't know you're a partner.
Yeah.
And the beginning, they're just speaking to you as somebody who's representing your firm. And I feel like that also gives you a lot of confidence if you're able to talk to them. And that might not come in the first go. First time you may be very nervous, but eventually once you keep doing it, you know that, you're learning and you're transforming your personality accordingly. And personally speaking, I used to be like very different back in college. I used to be very carefree and I was also a little short-tempered before that. But once you get into all of these firms, you can't be short-tempered. Like you have to remain calm and collected, in spite of whatever might be happening around you. And now I feel like my friends say like you're very calm, just in general. And I feel that I keep telling them it's because you've been in those situations where everybody expects you to like just be very stressed or angry or burst out, but that transforms your personality. And I think that also has an impact on how you live your life, not just on a work front. It develops your whole personality in your professional and personal life as well.
Yeah. So Harsheet, what do you think about your articleship time, department to choose, working hours? What's been your experience with KPMG?
So I
what do you
believe
suggest?
articleship is a must. Everyone should do articleship. You have to accept whatever work you get. Be happy, learn from what work you get. Since we earlier spoke that as an article, not much is expected out of you. So this is the time where you can invest more time. And learn something where you are not expected to, which will really stand out in your career going forward. Now, many people are here skip articleship for leisure, for their academics or clearing final CA, whatever may be the reason. But I believe doing articleship helped me for my academics as well, because after working 12, 14 hours a day, waking up early, going to classes and looking like everyone is there sitting, like who is doing exactly the same thing. There's nothing to crib about. Like everyone is happy. Everyone is really coping up and doing really good. And everyone has some different experiences to share, which can be useful for your work as well. Now coming to the fun part, it's really fun if you make jokes on your bosses. Like it's super fun. Like me and my articleship gang would really crack jokes on them.
So for everyone, we were part of that gang. Me, Shruti, Harsheet were part of KPMG gang.
Like a part of the day would be focused on observing and creating content. Okay, that's it.
So content creation अपना चल रहा था वहाँ पर.
Correct.
But it stayed
to a very niche group. And it's supposed to be because it was just for fun, not to harm anyone. Yeah. And our views were not personal, of course. And coming back to the work, I think, as I previously mentioned, you should accept everything that comes to you. You should not feel like I'm born for greater things or this is what I'm made for. मेरी शक्तियों का गलत इस्तेमाल हो रहा है, ऐसा वो सब मीम्स भी चलते थे जब भी हम कर रहे थे. तो it's okay. It happens. It happens to me. It happened to me also. It happened to her. I mean, I think everyone here is a top performer. A good rater, a top performer has been given fast track promotions. So it happens to everyone. So it's okay. You learn out of everything. And like even Jamil Khatri, if you mentioned earlier, even he had similar experiences when he had joined KPMG and he was giving a printing job. I think stamping job or some protect, like you apply to the holes, punch holes, punching the stickers. You apply to the punch holes. He was given that job, I think. So still he invested more time. He became efficient and learned things. This is what matters. Now coming to profile, I think it is very individualistic. Talking about my profile, very few firms offer this profile. So it's difficult to get in because the openings are really less, really few each year. But if you look tax in general, it's comparatively easier to get into. And if you are looking for audit, almost every firm offers audit, like from day one. Like there are firms which offer audit tax after you complete a year or after you complete 6 months, etc. But audit, if you want to do audit, it's I think available from day one almost in every firm. So getting into audit profile, I feel it will be easier. Getting into a tax profile would be little more difficult. But yeah, there are many firms, like many firms. Like
then you're good.
The choice of your firm may not be there, but you will definitely get into your choice of your profile.
Got it.
Now coming to working hours, like everyone in their career will have to spend more hours or invest more hours some phase of their life. Like I believe, like if you can decide it on that phase on your own right now, like now you are in a better standing compared to anyone else, because when you have to decide between your work and your family, you should not be there in cross legs or wherever. For me, my articleship period, I didn't have any personal responsibilities from my home, etc. I was privileged. Right? So I could spend more hours during my articleship days or post-qualification the first 2 years. I put really long hours in office, which has helped me now. Now it is pretty comfortable. I decide my opening hours and closing hours today. And this is a time where I also need to focus, give more time to my family, etc. Personally. So I'm able to give that. So in general, I'm satisfied. Had I had been made to put more hours today, then there would be some unsatisfied. I would be unsatisfied in general that I'm not happy here also and here also. And that there is no full commitment to one thing. So I think select your timing when you are able to spend and spend then at that point in time. The long working hours, as Narayan Murthy also mentioned, like spend 70 hours a week. I think someday, some point in time, we would have clocked. Like we are not keeping track. But it will definitely help you if it's giving you more exposure. You're
learning more.
You are learning more, and if you're able to give, then it's good to have it.
Ram, do you have anything on the working hours part?
Yeah. So I feel like articleship time, as Harsheet mentioned, most of us, we don't have too many responsibilities at home. So it's easier to devote that time, and I think that is also the phase where you're learning. So I feel like there is also that excitement and enthusiasm कि और सीखना है और काम करना है, want to understand how things go. So I feel like that's when we are interested in putting in more hours, and as I think once that phase gets over, we become less and less interested in putting that many hours. But I think it should come from within. Like if you feel like you want to work that many hours, then you should do it. But if somebody is forcing you to work that many hours, then I think you'll not be that productive. And you'll find it less and less lucrative to work that many hours. But I feel like if you work that many hours once in your life, then once you, as Harsheet mentioned, once you go up the hierarchy or you move to some other profile or in some other role, into some other company where you're working more reasonable hours, it becomes a cakewalk because you work that long. If you're working for shorter hours, it becomes very easy. Like if I were to share my experience when I went to Canada, the working hours there used to be 8 to 4:30. Like 8 o'clock in the morning you start, you get done at 4:30. My first day I went to the office, and at 4:30 I assumed people would like stay back and work more. So I'm just sitting there. Some people have left, and my partner was there, and I'm like, is there anything else that I can help you out with? And he's like, no, it's 4:30, like go home. And my house was like 15 minutes away from the office. I reached home at 4:45, and I'm like, what do I do with my time? Like I've never had so much time on my hands. Like what am I supposed to do with this? So I think that was a change. And in the busy season, even like especially what I saw in Canada is it's just as busy as it is in India in terms of audit. Like you put in that many hours, even more sometimes. So there was one particular week where I had clocked 100 hours in that week. And on the Monday after that, I got a call from 3 partners saying, is everything okay? Like, are you okay? And I'm like, this is very normal for us in India. Like we do this very regularly in the busy season. So it's not like, it's not something to worry about. But I feel like once you've done that, you can do it anywhere. And if it's lesser hours, you can get done very easily. So I feel like if you're able to crack that, then life will become easier later on. So you should put in that many hours because I think that is the time when you can do it. As Harsheet mentioned, once you grow up, once you have responsibilities at home, maybe once you're married, you have kids, you want to devote more time to them versus when you're like in college or when you have no responsibilities, you're single.
Right.
So yeah.
So Shruti, what's your take on your articleship journey? Again, which department you chose, and ours thing.
So my articleship I did from BMR Advisors. So I had chosen the M&A tax, the transaction advisory space. Initially, in fact, to be very honest, when I joined in, there was no intern. They never used to take openings for articleship. I got lucky. I got an experience there. I've been in the same field throughout, and it's actually been really interesting. If you see the whole journey, I have the privilege to map back and see the growth. Like I can really realistically measure the growth because when I was an article, I used to do one task, but the perspective I had on that job or that task which I was doing versus me doing the task today and the perspective I can have today is really different, a huge quantum jump from there to here. And I think everybody should, invest those kind of hours into an articleship experience Not only because it is good for your career and everything, but it also shapes you into a better professional because you learn how to network. Networking in a college event is completely different than networking at a professional setup. So and these are the years, when you are like primitive in this ecosystem, and you get like a good insight into how things work, how to be, how to behave, then how to interact in general.
Yeah.
So articleship is a must. Having said that, it's not only important, but it's also a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. Even though the hours were pretty grueling, it was insane amount of fun. Not to forget that you also make like lifelong friends along the way. I'm sure all of us are like, conquered to this point.
Got it. Understood. I think it was the best part of anyone's CA journey. Okay. So next question, like a lot of people have asked, also in question comes in, what is the impact of technology? Everybody is speaking AI. But what do you think the impact of technology will come in the departments you are in? What's your take around it? Because everybody asks whether CA ka job ban jayega, pura technology can do it. What's your take, Ram, for you, like audit and all?
I feel like technology is helping to a large extent. Like even when what we saw with the KPMG where I was working for too long, like with time it is adapting more and more technology. There's also a specific department who's dealing with like how can we involve more technology and make it easier for stuff. And I feel like, in my opinion, I don't think technology can ever replace, a human mind. In this, especially in case of audit, like when you need to make calls and when you need to see whether, this is, because audit is very subjective. And in the end, it's an opinion of a person, of a partner who's signing it at his team. So I don't think AI can ever make that call saying, okay, that a person has to do and they have to do it. So I feel like, but it is helping a lot. Like there are a lot of things which, articles used to do earlier on, which are now done in terms of like tools that we have. And I feel like gradually there was talk that, there's a technology being developed and they're working towards creating something that will be able to like vouch things on their own, like upload and invoicing. They will take care of everything you don't need to do, which I feel like it's a blessing in disguise because let's face it, nobody likes vouching. Yeah. So, and a lot of complaints that come from articles of audit who want to shift later on is that unless a vouching key and it's very monotonous and boring. So I feel like if that, very admin and mundane task can be taken care of by technology, you focus on the things that are actually interesting. Correct. And where you're learning a lot. So I feel like instead of looking at it as कि अरे replace कर देगा, you should look at it as अरे कैसे benefit करेगा. Correct. हमको. And of course there might be a few things like from what I'm seeing, a few things that might be and I'm going a little off key here. It's not just about audit, but in terms of like your income tax returns and all of that, I feel like they're simplifying it more and more and more. So eventually there may come a time where, very simplified income tax return, you might not need a CA to file it. Because, gradually sab kuch income tax website pe aa raha hai. So there might be a time where, a normal person might read up a little and file their own returns. But that is coming into very like smaller parties who don't have very complex situations. When you consider businesses who have complex situations and, very intense or very research-based tax cases to deal with. I think there only a human person can, look into that and give a proper opinion. I don't think AI could ever do it. So, yeah, that's my opinion on it.
Shruti, for your department, what changes you are seeing from the technology?
So, definitely we fall under the transaction square, the transaction advisory practice, which include a lot of taxation. So, as he rightly said, a lot of, the tax aspects can be, simplified. Case laws can be summarized, stuff like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, a human mind is something which is required, especially for strategizing and conceptualizing complex structures, which is a part of the work that we do. I think there's never going to be like this dearth of, requirement for professionals.
Got it. Understand.
That's going to be there for sure.
But ultimately, technology always make your life easier.
Yes, in a way.
Yeah. Harsheet, for you?
It will always be an enabler. It will never replace a human. I think.
Anything you've seen recently, like in your department, something has been coming up, like or some experiments are being done based on technology?
So in tax department, they are trying to automate compliances, the TDS returns. They are building softwares which will automatically from your MIS or from your accounting software, pick up data, churn it in a form which needs to be submitted to the TDS department and find your TDS returns. I think this is what they are trying to automate. This is what they are doing. But yeah, again, there's someone in the back end who is verifying with the output which was desired is coming out. And that's being done by a human.
Yeah, and plus, where opinion is required, a human only can give it.
Correct.
He can be better at giving opinion through technology, but opinion
You just kind of collate the facts for
Correct,
you,
yeah.
or probably the precedents for you. But the final call of whether you want to rely on those precedents or whether these facts squarely fall to our case is application of human mind.
So just to give a simple example, a technology will probably file a return on its own. But if there is an assessment of the notice, that a human needs to answer. And for the human to answer, he will have to go back to all the supporting data.
Yeah.
And for him to go back now, after the filing has been done, that would be a challenging job. So it's better like there's a human always in between before making the final submission.
Got it. Understood. So one of the last questions, what are your future plans? Like, what are you looking forward to? Harsheet, you want to
So currently, I think I'm in a good place. I'm getting good exposure. I'm focused to what I'm doing right now. So there are nothing planned as of now professionally. Personally, there was a major change in my life recently. So I think I'm giving some time over there.
What recently for public?
I recently got married.
Yeah. Let's not cover that part. But Shruti, for you.
Yeah, so likewise for me, I'm actually looking to go ahead in this career progression. This field has been nice, it's been rewarding, it's been interesting, dynamic, engaging. So I think it's pretty good, in a good shape. Looking forward to a better future.
Got it. Ram has changed a lot, like leaving a job.
Yeah. So I think it's an exciting phase for me because, it's still in the nascent stages and still growing. And I feel like that is what is motivating me, saying, I need to grow. And I like learning new things. So even when I was doing audit for so long and then I moved to a practice which was not just audit, it was also a lot of taxation, mainly taxation, a little bit of an audit. I felt like I was an article all over again because I knew nothing and I had to learn from scratch, saying, how do you do this? How do you file a return? I knew nothing. So I feel like it is also a learning phase, which is very exciting for me because as long as you are learning, it's keeping you motivated. And again, I never plan a lot as to what I want to do, but I just go with what I feel is right and I take a decision based on that. And it's been good for me so far. So yeah, I never close doors. I may go back to working a job again. I don't know. I want to stay into practice and see how it goes, but I never say no to anything. So
yeah, of course, be open to opportunities. Okay, last question, which I asked to all my guests. What is success for you? Shruti, that's that.
Success to me is inner fulfillment.
Sorry?
Inner fulfillment.
Inner fulfillment.
Yeah.
All right. Harsheet?
I think if you are happy, people around you are happy, people that matters to you are happy, then it's okay. That's success for me.
Yeah.
running on this podcast.
This was not a scripted answer.
No kidding. Again, as she said, the happiness you find, you might be earning a lot of money, you might be doing like something that takes away a lot of your time. But if you're not happy, at the end of the day, you don't feel happy when you come home. I feel like it's no use. The amount of money you have, the amount of fame you have, or whatever else you might have. So whatever gives you that, even if you're like maybe not earning as much money as you would somewhere else, giving you that happiness, I think it's worth to take that chance.
Wow. I think very similar answer. And I've got this answer a lot of times from the founders who have worked 4-5 years. And they're saying, ultimately, you can be happy.
Yeah.
That's the inner fulfillment. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show, giving insights on Big Fours. A lot of people will get help of it. Thank you so much for coming on this.
Thank you for
Thank you for
having
that.
us.
Yeah.